It's 5 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start this Carbon County School District 2 Board of Trustees meeting, which normally would be at Hannah Elementary School. Appreciate you bringing the treats, Ms. Nicewinder. Thanks for bringing the treats, even though we're not at Hannah.
We missed you guys there. They really wanted you guys there, but.
And I love going there. That's still my favorite board meeting. So will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance since we're not in your building?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so carries. Okay. Item 3, presentations. Sally, you want to
Certainly.
give us an introduction?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have for you this evening to present your audit for the 1920 school year. Ms. Alexander Wilkinson from Porter Muirhead, Cornett, and Howard. PMCH, as we finally refer to them. Alexander.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here again. And I just wanted to inform you that we have completed the audit for fiscal June 30th, 2020. And you should be in the receipt of our report, our communication to the board, as well as there is a copy of all the journal entries and also the representation letter that we received from Ms. Wells. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which is best opinion you could receive. We did not have any findings. We also examined the district internal control, and while we don't issue an opinion on that, but this is in conjunction with what their procedures for the regular financial statements audit. I also did not have any findings in that regard. We at the district did not have a single audit again. There were approximately, I think, $450,000 in federal funding, which is under the limit for single audit. The limit is $750,000. So we did the district did not adopt any new accounting pronouncements or any kind of new accounting standards. There were one that should have been implemented, which was GASB 84. It's with regards to fiduciary activities, but because of the pandemic, all of the standards were delayed, and everybody got a reprieval, which, considering the situation, everybody decided that would be the best choice to wait till the next year. That standard is going to more than likely change some of the reporting. Currently, the district reports student activities and any kind of scholarships that are considered agency funds, and are reported on the last page of the financial statements that I don't have them here, but I can refer you to. Apologize for that here. It's page 24 and 25. So with adoption of GASB 84, based on the new kind of definition of custodial funds, the student activities are going to be considered a governmental funds. So they will be no longer reported as an agency funds here. The agency fund, the nomenclature will no longer exist. It's going to be called custodial funds. And because the board has some control over some of those funds, there are sponsors for each of the activities. They basically will be reported next year with the adoption of that standard as one of the funds on page 15 and 16 and also will be shown revenues and expenditures. This really will not change how the district accounts for the funds, other than just a change in reporting. So that was a standard that should have been adopted, but was elected to be deferred with deferral of all the standards for next year. I think that's leases is going to be the following year, GASB 87. More than likely, there will not be a significant change unless the district is going to have some leases and there'll be some change in reporting, but I think it's not going to be significant to the district to adopt that standard.
And I was going to point out on page 24 and 25, the one that says other got 15,000. That's your medicine bill lodging deposit account, 15,183. Just for your information on page 24 and 25. So you've got your scholarships and your student activity accounts, and then other is your medicine bill lodging deposit account that we needed to account for somewhere, so that's where it shows up. And activity funds become a governmental fund because the board has control over those funds by virtue that when the checks are written, your signatures are on those checks. So that gives you control over that money, even though we know it's not your money, the students have raised it, we consider that to be the students' money, but because we have authority to sign those checks in the school board, that's part of what makes them a governmental fund.
Right.
Any questions for Alexandra?
We want to thank Ms. Wells and our business office for, preparation of all the schedules and journal entries and everything to prepare the financial statements. As the board knows, the responsibility to prepare the statements is the district's responsibility, and all the journal entries that were posted in conjunction with preparation of the financial statements are included in the letter that we have attached. And it seems like quite a few entries, but some of that is because the board in the district keeps the records on cash basis, and the financial statements on a modified accrual or full accrual for the government-wide statement of net position. So there are quite a few journal entries that need to be posted and which are all provided by the business office to us. So we really appreciate that. Really, everything went really smooth. I think this is the second year that we were able to present the financial statements on the first meeting in October, which is nice.
You did an awesome job.
So, thank you. Are there any questions?
No, thank you for coming down and
Thank you.
Thank you.
glad we have a good report with no issues.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4, Wyoming High School Activities Association Sportsmanship Award letters.
We had 3 letters. One was for Whitney Bennett, SMHS volleyball versus Snake River, 9-17. The entire set of the football players on the team for the game against Pine Bluffs on the 18th, and Noah River football versus Riverside on September 26th. That's those along, so that'll be in the minutes.
Thank you. Okay, item 5A, extra duty contracts.
This is just the updated for September meeting. There were some additions. I think they were highlighted, so we're just presenting those for approval. And they're listed under administrative content. Kevin Pennell, Andy Moon, Tierra, Scott, Josh Scott. The positions are listed there in the packet.
Mr. Chairman, I move we offer 2020-2021 activity extra duty contracts to those listed.
It's been moved and seconded to offer those positions listed. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. Item B.
There was one teacher added to the CBB stipend list. That's Nancy Munsinger. She has student computer applications.
So we just need to approve our addition to that.
Chairman, I move that we offer the 2021 CDBE activity contract. That's for August, September, board meetings, and next month's.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to offer that 2020-2021 CBE activity contract. Nancy Munsinger, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, item 6A, superintendent reports, Dr. Copeland.
All right, I'll just go quickly down the list and be glad to answer any questions, but the enrollment figures are there. We had 600, which is no overall change. There were a few minor changes of +1, -1 kinds of things. So those are all listed there. Again, we stayed at 600. This compares with 575 last year at this same time. Item 2, just a reminder, the Wyoming School Boards Association Annual Conference, November 18th and 20th. That's coming up. I guess that'll be right after the November meeting. That's a completely virtual event this year, from what I understand. They haven't gotten agendas yet, or at least the one that I checked last week on their website, but I'm sure they'll have more information about how to zoom into that and all of that. It's normally in person.
Hold up real quick there. Joe asked something about that earlier.
What I was thinking, I mean, this is going to be 1.5 days or something. Would we want to, this board meet here and we'll all be virtual kind of together, or?
I guess if this room be available, if anybody wants to do it that way.
I'm sure it's available.
Yeah, we'll just have to double check the calendar, but I'm sure that it will be.
Normally we do it all.
Because that would give us an opportunity, number one, to interact with each other.
For those that want to come. And I'm kind of assuming it's a Zoom because I think that's what WSB is using as far as supporting that. So, you can set it up. It's a good question. Bill, would that need to be advertised to all of the board members come to that convention in this room?
Technically, that's meeting. So how do you get by then with us all going to the, how do we get by to the School Board Association conference? If you're all in the same area and you're discussing school to business, again, technically, but I mean, we don't advertise to go, I get what you're saying, but we can go to that conference. We don't advertise.
And technically, we're not really discussing
If you're not, you just don't visit with each other.
about
School
Arvin
to, not Arvin to. Yeah, I mean, technically, we all go out to dinner together. Exactly. I mean, I'm right up there in the car together, there's 4 or 5 of us. So. I mean, I wouldn't find it super likely that more than 4 of us are going to be here to watch the meeting, but you never know.
Okay. Number 3, the school recalibration committee meeting will be October 28th through 30th. It's 3 full days. They're listed for 8 hours a day. The agenda's already there. You can click that wild ledge, that link that I had in my report, and you can watch any or none or all of it, depending on what you want to do. But the agenda's there. I think the first day is mostly about special ed. And then the second day gets into salary studies that the consultant did about teacher salaries and what's appropriate and what's adequate and all of that as far as salaries go. So that might be fairly interesting because what I understand, they're not recommending any change in the funding, especially they're not trying to reduce that. I mean, that's tied to a temple thing. But that's, when I glanced at the agenda, that was what was going to be on the 28th, and the 29th was the salary thing, and the 30th was some other tie-up topics. All of those meeting materials are on there. You can look at it, you can print them, whatever. There's quite a few. So that's already all on there. You can look and see. This is not the last meeting. They will meet again in December to approve their final report. And just glancing at pieces of the draft report, it's basically unchanged from the initial recalibration draft that they talked about at the last meeting. Sally told me today that the business managers are going to Zoom, or at least a group of them are going to Zoom on this Friday to just compare notes, to talk about anything that they have to look at or maybe you might notice. So that'd be a good thing to just make sure it's missing anything that you might want to make a comment about. So that's coming up. I just reminded everybody on that. I'll probably have it going in the background when I'm in my office or something, and listen to things that are pertinent to us. Item 4, I just again reminded the superintendent evaluation. I've been working on those evidences spreadsheet. I'll share that out later around the first week of November. And then, unless I misstated something, I think what you'll do, we did get that form. Rick Bond's fixed it where we can put the numbers in and calculate. So I think that you can download it and then attach it and send it to James, or you can print it and give it to him in hard copy or whatever. And you compile. You could probably just average all those in here and then show it once. So that was good that you got that fixed. This year it's standards 1, 4, and 5. Standards 1, there's not really going to be a lot of new information. I may add some information on the fall interim results that we have to date, just because that's the most current assessment information, even though it's just an interim thing. But you can still look at those grades district-wide and compare it to the state, proficiency, advanced, so on levels, just to kind of see. I've been kind of looking at that already. So, but everything else is based on 2 years ago, which was the last time we did all the official assessments. And so, so there won't be a lot of different things on standards 1 as far as that spreadsheet. And then 4 and 5, I've just gone by on that initial form, and they have a list of possible evidences that you can use. So I'll be kind of going by that as far as what to put on there. So I'm working on that, and I'll get that out to everybody on November 1st, and then I'm sure James will be in contact. You can fill it out whenever you want to after you get that and get it to James. And then that will be shared at the November meeting, correct, amongst the board and discussed. And then number 5 is just the last item is at the same time we've been working on updating all the accreditation evidence. That's another spreadsheet that's also due at the state. I think by November 1st, I think Friday before is like the 28th or something like that. But anyway, that is more of a district-wide. Noel has done a lot of work. I've done a lot of work last year. So what we're doing, what makes that a little easier year to year is that a lot of those go to a link that is updated or a Google folder that just keeps being updated. So you don't have to change every link. There are some links where you need to update. The principals are responsible for a spreadsheet that's related to their specific campus. And so, again, the Blacktop assessment data is not nothing new to put on there as far as the state is concerned. So we're working on that, and that'll be done in the next, we've got about 2 more weeks to get that finalized. So we're getting pretty close on both of those. So just an update on those. And then back on the recalibration, we'll talk about it. It's under board items, but you know, they requested a letter, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm not trying to skip over. So
We cover a couple of those topics.
okay, that's my report.
Thank you. No principal reports this time on special ed. Mr. Manning.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my report is attached as usual. For curriculum, just want to give you some updates about how we've been trying to increase use of Schoology with all the teachers so far this year. This is hopefully, well, this is beyond just CBVE teachers. This is everyone, in case we have another shutdown, but also just to enhance our curriculum in total so that students have a little bit better access. We did have some recent difficulties, unfortunately, with 2 programs, Power School and Schoology, not syncing together. We were able to resolve that. It actually was an internal calendar issue. But there were some staff members that were frustrated by that. I think we've pushed past that now. Andy Ward and Ned Marchetti have both done a tremendous job trying to address these things. I know here and there are some staff member issues that pop up, but they're able to resolve that fairly quickly. So if you've been around in the district long enough, you know that we've tried to push Schoology in the past, and it's failed to the extent we wanted to use it because of some staff difficulties. We're trying to avoid that so that doesn't happen again, because we want staff obviously to buy into use of that system. That really just enhance our instruction more and more. So that's an ongoing process. No district assessment system information at this time, no updates. That's been kind of on our back burner really compared to some other more important pieces going on right now. Assessments, the fall YTOP interim testing is pretty much all completed now. I think there's just a few kids here and there that are still doing makeup testing. The window closes October 23rd, so we've got a few more days. Once we've got all the students that have actually tested, I'm going to put together a report that was very similar to last February. If you remember, I created a report that compared the fall interim data to the winter interim data within our district to see how students have been progressing throughout the year. Obviously, I was never able to finish that because the summative testing was canceled, but I plan to do something similar to that, except compare last year's fall data to this year's fall data, as well as last year previous grade to this year current grade, just to see if we can pull any other information about how students are performing, especially after all these COVID closures and potential impacts on students based off of that. So I'm looking forward to getting that report out to principals to help them. I know they want to use that information to help their staff, and hopefully we can see some good trends. And if anything, hopefully students, if they lost any ground from last year to this year, it's not too drastic of a piece. Beyond that, other work, we had our in-service day on October 2nd. Teacher feedback on that day was mixed. We did have some tech issues with the remote M-class training we did for our elementary teachers. And again, that is a part of our new K-3 literacy statute, or the requirement that we have to meet certain criteria or a certain percentage of students at grade level by the end of the year. Most of those were just internal computer malfunctions, things like that. I didn't hear much more about that day in terms of tech issues. We also had an issue with our PLC meetings where we were able to address that before it actually happened and impacted a number of people. So our planning moving forward, it's going to vary based off of some of the information we've learned from the teachers and feedback. I think if you haven't heard it as board members, I think it makes sense. Some of our teachers are already feeling a little bit burned out. There's been so many changes since this past spring. So we have an 18 meeting this Friday, or I'm sorry, this Wednesday, where we're going to be discussing what we can do to try to help lighten that load a little bit on the teachers moving forward. Because obviously we don't want to put any unnecessary stress on our staff members. So far, like I mentioned, we've already talked about trying to use some of that YTOP data, but then also trying to give some teachers just time on their own, as well as do a little bit more of that Schoology training on board. We've been working on the accreditation evidence, as Dr. Copeland already mentioned. There's some data that I'm going to be sharing with you next month, as well as that YTOP data. It's called our collective efficacy. It's basically, we're asking the staff members to rate how they think the district is performing in terms of impacting student lives in our schools. Last year, we collected that data for our in-person meeting, and we scored average compared to other districts across the nation, which is not a bad thing. I'm hoping for at least some of the same, but I will share that information so you can see exactly how our teachers are kind of feeling collectively about how the schools are performing. Beyond that, the only other thing really to mention is still working on some of those SCED coding updates that I mentioned previously. Kind of taking a step back because of what the teachers are experiencing, but I'm going to be working with the counseling staff to see how that's going based on their opinions of my work, and then just trying to get into the classrooms and observe new teachers for the year sometime next quarter, after the first quarter ends.
Thanks, Noel. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do. No, seems like we're having a lot of technical difficulties with our technology. Is there something we can be doing better that you see? Is it something really out of our control, or because if we can't have this stuff functioning right by now, it's no wonder our teachers are burned out. They're probably troubleshooting constantly,
Sure.
losing their work. That stuff can be ultimately frustrating. And so I don't know, do we need a new version, upgrade, talk about?
That's a great question, Mike.
I mean, it just doesn't seem like something.
I didn't catch that last part, but it's not a technology issue in terms of our district network not performing. In all honesty, not to disrespect anyone, but these are programs that we set up and we use. We go into the settings maybe once or twice a year. It's not easy for that information to be kept fresh on teachers' mind. So sometimes it's user errors. It's not always like the internal calendar issue I mentioned. That was honestly on district leadership's shoulders. So in terms of getting that information out to teachers, we're working hard on that, and Nanette is especially taking a lot of time to visit with teachers one-on-one to make sure they understand or get things set up correctly. I don't think it has to do anything with individual programs being out of date. I think it's just something that I know of experience throughout my career whenever helping teachers work with technology. It's just you have to keep repeating yourself over and over and over again, because people don't keep those things in mind when they're focused on doing what's best for their kids in their classroom every single day versus, again, maybe set up my Schoology account at the beginning of the year, maybe look at it at the end of the year, and then I'm good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, like you couldn't just get everybody once a week just to go over it like 10, 15 minutes, whether it's after school or before school, like have a little Schoology meeting, answer any questions anybody might have. But I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get all these errors fixed, so
Sure.
these teachers don't continue to keep going through this.
Sure.
I'm assuming that's what's leading to the burnout, right? Or do you have other thoughts on that?
I
That's
have
kind
other
of
thoughts on that. I think it's a much more complex issue, but I think just in general, to make this as quick as possible, we're just living in a very different time of education right now. And students and teachers are having to adapt to a new system where it's not as easy as looking at somebody in the classroom and saying, Johnny, what do you think about this particular concept? Especially when we have CBBE students in mind who are at home working remotely. Every time you have change, there's going to be difficulty, and we're trying to support it as best as possible. Nanette's not doing live meetings with Schoology every week for like 15 minutes, but she's trying to do a lot of videos that teachers can see, they can approach at their own time. So we're trying to come up with good alternatives, but obviously we welcome any other suggestions. I know I've tried to keep in touch with the teachers often to ask them if you want something different. We're trying to come up with new ideas, but please feel free. If you have suggestions, we will certainly take them into consideration.
Thank you, Noel.
You're welcome.
Just to clarify this too, Noel, part of the reason the push forward to this for you two, Jim, I guess, push forward through Schoology and some of this instead of slacking off is we have to have this kind of up and running in case for some reason we have to shut down.
Yes.
Right. So that's the reason we kind of got to push through it.
Yes.
I mean, normally you might say, hey, yeah, back off, but this is in prep for if for some reason we had to
Yes.
go down, we would be in better shape.
Well, and also Nanette is now available and volunteered really to do one-on-one Zooms. So if a teacher, we've tried to communicate to teachers if you're having issues, and the principals have also, to just set up a Zoom one-on-one with Nanette anytime, since she can't go around to all of our campuses constantly. She does that, but I mean, she can't be at every place at the same time. So she's perfectly willing to set up a Zoom with anybody having trouble working through whatever issue there is. But technology is kind of one of those things, and I'll be honest, I have not worked in a district where there's not technology frustrations on and off. some more than others. It's just one of those things, even, it's just, can be frustrating because most of us don't know all the details about how to fix things or even understand how it works really. And when it don't work, we're frustrated. We want somebody just to fix it. So it's just going to continue. There's not going to be a guaranteed no frustration technology system anywhere, I don't think. But we're trying to work through this, and we'll see. We just kind of have to take it week to week, and then sometimes there are problems we don't discover until somebody actually has it, and then we discover it. And we have to try to see what we can do to fix it. So.
Credit to the teachers for their resiliency.
Yeah.
We all want to do what's best for the kids. So I hate to pile it on teachers and say, keep doing what's best for the kids, but they've worked really well with us. They've helped identify those problems. And I know that they're willing to problem solve until we can get those solutions, again, to do whatever is best.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Noel and Nanette. It's too bad we didn't have 4 Nanettes for each school or something, just to kind of have around and have there at the school.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. I understand the frustrations of having to work with technology, and it does take time, especially at the beginning. So as long as we're taking all the feedback and stuff and somehow getting that and actually, trying to resolve it. I just want to make sure that there's nothing that we need to be looking at though. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Item 7A, public comment. Any audience questions, comments at this time? Okay. There is no unfinished business. Item 9, new business would be considered continuing to lease, sell, or hold the vacant Medbo property by the old school that's currently leased to Medbo Lighting LLC for trailer.
Well, this is just a reminder, so it doesn't sneak up right at the very end, but their lease runs out December 31st. So basically, just wanted to kind of get some input from the board. Is the board's thinking that they want to continue to lease this property? Is this something they want to consider selling? Or just kind of what it is, what our intentions are, because if we want to continue leasing, then there's probably not as much work other than come up with a new lease, unless you want to explore options of other leasees, is that the right name? Other people to lease it, or if you want to sell it, though, there probably would need to be some preparation on how that's going to work and how that's going to look. So I'll put that on here now, basically to give us enough time to figure out where we're going with this. So we'll have something by the end of the year, and just your comments. And, because if we are planning to sell it, I'll need to get with Bill, and we'll need to figure out how that process is supposed to look. And if we're going to keep leasing it, then the decision, we don't have to make everything decision tonight necessarily, but if we're, then if we're going to lease it to the same continual lease or offer, I did attach an email from the current folks that are leasing it. They're in Delmont and Tyler Casclear, I think I said that, and they are interested. You can read the email I attached it. So, or thing did. So just kind of wanted to hear what thoughts on that and kind of the way forward. And if we have any questions for Bill, legal questions about it.
So to reiterate a little bit, we leased them to them through the end of the fiscal year or calendar year. We had a couple concerns about them not finishing up the fence and the road, I think. Have they fulfilled that to anyone's knowledge?
Yeah, the fence is complete, the road is not. So, I got one question. Is there a concern that we might be in competition or local private sector? Listening that to that's another part. That was just brought up to me. That was brought up to me by another RV.
I didn't hear that. What would you say, Charlie?
The concern is that if we were in conflict with private sector or in competition with private sector, leasing it as an RV park.
Well, I know there's several other RV parks in that area that at least, for the same purposes, Medlow Lodging is including basically wind farm workers and others that need some place to hook in their RVs.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really a legal question. I guess certainly anytime you lease property or in competition, I guess the second thing is that a good thing or a bad thing? There's nothing wrong with the board making. From a financial standpoint, there's nothing wrong with you making money, I guess, philosophically, whether you should be doing that or not, it's up to the board.
I remember that was discussed.
Well, I can just say that Darren's been there more this year than last, and based off what he told us when he last discussed this with us, that he was planning on being there and fulfilling his obligation more. I think he's done that. I've gotten to know him a little bit better too as well. So, I mean, I'm in favor of continuing to lease it for sure. And then to sell it's up to the boards. I think we had a good approach. We probably ought to ask the community and just make sure that we take all that into consideration. It's not a bad idea. We can get started on that sooner than later, but it seems like in 2 or 3 years that this wind turbine stuff might fizzle away, and their interest may not be there in 2 or 3 years. I don't know if that's good or bad for us, but land's valuable. I guess it's an asset I see that the school has. I'd hate to see it just go, whether we're getting money from it or not.
Yeah, I guess I would disagree at the end there, Mike, that it is an asset, but I think at the end of the day, it's not our business. And well, at some point, I would be in favor of selling the property because we're not the landlord business long term. It's not. I get, it's great we're getting some revenue when we're talking about budget shortfalls, but through time you may get something may happen. You never know. You could get a lawsuit. I just think owning property that we don't use that doesn't have an educational purpose doesn't necessarily long term.
How many RV parks are over there, Charlie?
5.
Out of all of them, has everybody kind of been behaving themselves over there? I've heard some stories that it's pretty wild and western out there,
It's been pretty western over there.
but ours is doing all right, right?
There's western everywhere.
People away from their wives with money.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Drink beer. That was a problem. Terrible. Like that's Wyoming. And it was. Been that way for a long time.
If we were to sell it, do we have to open it up to bid, or do we not have to? Can you sell it directly to them? Is there a proper way to go about it, or?
That's kind of a bill question.
Yeah, so like 2 legal things. One, if you continue to rent it or lease it, there's a statute that talks about if you lease anything for more than a year, you're supposed to obtain school facilities permission. But that statute specifically related to closed or surplus buildings. And so I don't think it's applicable, but when we contacted school facilities a year and a half ago when we first started doing this, initially they said, yeah, it doesn't apply. Then they came back the day of and right, yeah, it does apply. So
Well, I think you just have to list it in your facilities plan as a lease.
is it okay? I just want to make sure that
We've done that.
if we lease it longer,
And as long as our term's only 1 year,
well, arguably we continue a lease under the same terms as that another year, but I don't know. There's no law out there that specifically says that. We always want to make sure we're on the same page with school facilities if we lease one. On a sale, there's no specific state statute that requires us to sell it this way or that way. You do have to obtain school facilities approval. I think there's a general obligation, anytime you're a governmental entity, to make sure that you can tell your constituents you've gotten the best price possible. That can be hard to do if you just sell it on a private sale. How do you prove that? You can go get an appraisal on it. Then you can sell it to a single person. You at least have something in the file saying here's breaking with that. Obviously, if you put it out for bid, there's a commercial way of doing that. You can show them that you've gotten the best price available. But I think at the end of the day, you just need to be able to say, here's how we did it, and here's how we assured ourselves that we were able to sell for the best price. I know in that email talks a little bit about where we put this money into the property, and therefore, we don't say this specifically, but we ought to get a little better deal. I think when we, at least my recollection, when we negotiated that was built into the lease price, and we gave them a better deal on the front end rather than on the back end. I don't know if you guys remember the same way, but that's how I remember it. So we do have a nicer piece of property now, and they did put in the money to do that, but they got at least what we thought was a better deal with the lease. So if we want to sell it, and I never thought of selling it, it would be call school facilities and say, how have other school districts done this to assure that they've gotten the best price? Not that they're to control it. I think they're more than just to rubber stamp it, but they may have some ideas on how to do that also. So those are my thoughts. We have a policy, I guess the other thing, we do have a policy EN, that talks about requiring us to sell any property by advertising and sell to the highest bidder. That does not necessarily, that applies to surplus and items over $500. I don't know if it necessarily applies to this item, but I do think it shows, again, this board's requirements to make sure you get the best price possible. Does that answer the question?
I agree. I think the best thing to do would be to sell it. We keep bringing this up every so often, and it's just, I just don't feel like it's in our best interest to have that property and to keep evaluating this. We have other things to do, and it seems like now would be the perfect time to sell it. I don't know if the current lessees, Rental Lodging, if they would be open to purchasing it. I mean, it says at this point they continue to keep leasing it. Do you have a feel for that?
I think they say in their letter, on their email.
It says we'd like the opportunity
To
purchase the property.
first opportunity to purchase properties, we have time expense invested in property they would like to avoid still the process when they become owner. Obviously, they would prefer that.
Let me add, sorry to interrupt, but when we negotiated this lease, the first lease that we received from them had a right of first refusal to buy the property. And we said no thank you at the time, and we took that out. I don't know if that matters, but just point that out.
Does anybody else have anything to say about, at least I guess on this coming year, to go ahead with another lease, or as Cassie said, that this may be a good time to sell? Georgia, your opinion?
I can leave to sell it.
Karen? It's not a vote, just you're just, I want your voice.
You want to hear my voice? I like that. I just saw it.
I agree. I think, like Bill said, we don't have a first right of refusal with the leasing right now. To cover your bases, it would probably be the best way.
And they could certainly, they're going to still do it themselves.
Cassie, anything else?
No, I just think we, well, it's a little bit yes. I think we need to sell it, whether it's now or if we want to give them an extended period. Sell it in 6 months or a year.
We probably won't have enough time to get all the ducks in a row right now this year, it's before the end of the lease, so I'd be inclined maybe to offer it to them for another year.
How long does it take to make a sealed bid?
Well, the sealed bid would not take the time. The time would be to get it approved to the facilities and all. But I mean, I guess you could probably approve the deal contingent on the facilities commission approval, because you just got to get it on the next agenda. We would think they'd have an issue with it. I mean, there's no.
I think maybe the issue would be, I'm not trying to pick sides by any means. I don't know how many trailers were there, but if Dr. Copeland were to call them tomorrow and say, look, we're not going to lease it again. Even at this early stage of the game, they have to get all these people moved out of there by And the facility, they may not be, and that's
Bidders.
Yeah,
that's what we read last year.
Yeah.
That is it.
But I think if you, like, you know, I'm trying to.
Well, and I mean, I'm just looking for input. If we want to do that and say we're going to sell it at the end of the next lease, and then everybody know way up front, way ahead for a lot of those, that's fine. I just kind of want to know where I go forward with it as far as.
Is there a time limit for that advertising?
No, there's no, again, I think the board just has to make sure that you're comfortable, you've got, whatever method you choose, that you've done it in a way that you're going to get the best price.
This is a small piece of property, correct?
19 about.
So it's, I mean, it's not big enough to do anything really with. In the middle of nowhere.
How big a branch on? Big enough to have a trailer park.
I mean, it's not big enough for a school building or anything like that. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree. I wish there was some way that we could get a price on it now while it's hot instead of wait for it next year when it's might not be. So I would be up for another year at least, going up over the so.
Yeah, and that's a good point because the interest may go away. So,
Yeah. I mean, unless Charlie wants to guarantee it for about 65,000.
We got an informal estimate from a realtor back a couple of years ago. I think it was in like in the mid-30s or something like that. If I remember right, sound around 36. It was what?
I thought it was 37. Yeah, go ahead. I was maybe high 30s, 40.
Yeah.
Casey?
I am in favor of selling it. And I have no interest in dragging the lease out, but if it's gonna put people in jeopardy
Isn't
where
that,
they need to live, then that would be my only issue with it.
So,
But there are 5 other trailers.
who would buy that right now? It's somebody that wants to have a trailer park. And guess what they want there? You buy rental property, guess what you want there? You want tenants on day one. You don't want those people to leave. Like,
Well, we would hope that would be the second situation.
that is the situation. I mean, that's the reality.
We did hear some interest in whoever bought that school, the old school.
Yeah, about putting a lady on the yard or something. But if you, having it more probably adds $15,000 because you figure the 1 year's rent in it versus the vacant that it was before.
Although
It's
those
because you have
people
tenants
signed
there.
to Medbo, when they leave, if the company didn't get purchased.
They should be leaving there pretty quick.
yeah, they're getting out.
Starts out, they say in wintertime.
Not gonna be.
I thought we had it in the winter when the lease went off, because we wouldn't have to get rid of premiums or anything that we ever had to. Remove that wrong.
So that was spring before we had to.
Mike, you got anything to add?
Sell it. Buy something nice for the teachers, the school.
Maybe we could have operating money. No, if that works that way.
I would think you'd want to get it appraised. More value of it for, the infrastructure that the line is expensive. That adds to the cost of the property. It's not just a very decent ground rent. It's actually functional RV parks. There's some infrastructure that they put in that needs to be accounted for.
You kind of worry. You mean the appraisal?
Yeah.
Did you find that, Sally?
Yeah, and in July of 2018, it was valued at 37.5. That was
That's a
before.
big number.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
And that was when it was unimproved.
Undeveloped, yeah.
Undeveloped.
Before they did.
Or before the wind farms actually exploded.
Before they fixed the electrical.
We did have a call of somebody that might be interested in, we're going to listen in on the YouTube meeting. ancillary as far as if it was going to be sold.
That's, that was the point about advertising. If you accept still bids, so only one person knows it. That's the only bid you're gonna get. If you take a week and advertise it, that you're actually thinking about selling this, gives everybody an equal opportunity.
Well,
Do you have to post it when you just still bid? You post
Still
it
bids, I think
everywhere?
it has to be.
and our lease is through the end of the year, right? So it's got 2 more months on it anyways. So if we do any kind of sealed bid process for sale, it wouldn't be until the end of this year. It might still be tight.
When we advertise, now we have to get the SFC to say we can do it.
Well, they have to approve it eventually. at some
And I was
point.
thinking they have, I was thinking they were on their agenda, but I'll have to look that up.
I don't think we've asked them to approve the sale of that. That was on the sale of that football field. We went through that process.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, is do we get the approval first? Or do we just do it and then ask for forgiveness?
That's always the best way.
Well, you would have to write in the contract contingent upon school facilities approval. I mean, that is what the whole contract would hinge on. Really.
Is there any reason they wouldn't?
I've never heard them say no to any of that kind of thing, really, especially when it's just not being really used for any educational purpose. And no foreseen use of an educational purpose.
The city of Gold wouldn't have a problem with any of this, would they think?
No, they don't have any interest in that.
Well, you sent a letter to the commission in May of, excuse me if I may, Mr. Chairman. We sent a letter to the commission in May of 2020 to sell the football field. And we received a response to be on their agenda in June.
So the
So
next
to
one.
come up to- so the next month we're on the agenda for that piece.
So the problem, just thinking out loud, if we had come up with some structure in your November meeting, and you approved it then, I mean, the earliest you're gonna be able to accept an offer would be in December. School facilities would not be able to accept that or approve it until January. And so you're
Well,
gonna
I
have this
think-
period of time where you still have renters there.
I think the school, I would be surprised if the school facilities did not have to know the details. I mean, you couldn't just get approval to sell it. You would have to say
That's what
approval to sell it to such and such for this amount of money, and then they would consider it to approve, I would think. I'd be surprised if they would let you pay.
So my point is that at the end of
It has to be
December,
after the
so at least that's what the current people, if you were gonna sell to somebody else, and not have the approval until January, closing until January, February, what are you gonna do with all those trailers there? Who are they gonna pay rent to? Are we gonna get rent? We want rent relief, anybody?
So, I think one way to handle that potentially would be, if we chose to go that route, would just be to tell Medco Properties that that's what's gonna happen. And then perhaps offer it to them on a month-to-month basis. And if we give them enough notice that that's gonna happen, I mean, we're 2.5 months out now. That's plenty of time to tell the people. If that was the case and we could lease it monthly, January, February, whatever, even if it was in March, but if, I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but if we did, I think we could offer that monthly until the time of closing. We could specify on the sealed bid, perhaps it was like a March 1st or April 1st closing. And then, medical lodging would have some additional time to, obviously they're trying not making any money in the winter time. And so, we could perhaps deal with that with some kind of a reduced rent, half rent for
Do you
Couple months or
foresee
something.
any trailers staying there? During the winter? I mean, if that's the case,
really
if the lease ran out and they didn't want to lease it month to month,
It wouldn't be that big deal.
kick anybody off.
I think we would have, if we did sell it, we want to have it sold in time that either them or a different owner could prep and advertise and be ready by May, when people start coming in, April, whatever it is. So, I don't think the winters, even if it's January, February, is a bad time to have a closing.
I agree.
Make a motion.
Yes, I motion that we go ahead with,
Give Superintendent Copeland permission to.
I motion that Dr. Copeland can tell you what we're gonna
Tell us what we're gonna do.
do. Guide us, whatever you
Move
want.
forward toward the sale.
Move forward towards the sale.
Okay.
Second, it's moved and seconded, to, direct Dr. Copeland to move forwards with, sale of the Medicine Bow trailer park racing lease. Any discussion? I guess here's anybody that does not want to go through a sealed bid, we're at some kind of bid process for public transparency.
Yeah, I mean, the sealed bid would be, I think no matter what you do, you want to look at that. Sealed bid's fine, we can advertise it, we can come with a proposal at the next meeting, and here's how we think the best way of doing it. You just want to make sure that you have the ability to reject all bids. Nobody offers you what you want, you better keep it, that's.
Most bids are advertised for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
2 consecutive editions of the paper, which is on 9 days a week weekly. And then, you can accept, you can accept a bid or reject all bids. I mean, it kind of makes, it wouldn't be bad to get an informal appraisal. I mean, if you were going to get one, it wouldn't take as much time, but in essence, your sealed bid is an appraisal in a way, because that's what people are going to pay for. What the appraisal comes back, but the appraisal might be before it's in design, whether it's reasonable or not, I guess.
And you can set a minimum.
Yeah, you can set a minimum in the bid and
A sealed bid.
I'm just thinking out loud, I would suggest maybe I even draw up an agreement saying, here's the terms and conditions of the sale. Leave the amount blank. You guys can approve those terms at the next meeting, then just be sitting here for anybody to pick up. Purchase agreement, that's the terms of how we sell it.
Okay.
So I'll give it Bill and move forward.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Okay, so moved and seconded to direct Dr. Copeland to move forward with sale of the Medicine Bow property that's currently leased to Medbo Lodging, and diligent and some kind of a public bid sort of fashion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 11A, treasurer's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your general fund balance at the end of September is $4,146,968.35. You see there your revenue and expenses for the month of September. Your state of Wyoming foundation payment was $782,000, and the treasurer tax payment was $116,000. We had some interest income and some federal and state reimbursements. In section 3, you can see how your general fund money is invested at various rates and maturities. Do you have any questions regarding the general fund treasury report? On page 2, the financial report for your other funds, for your federal and state grants, payroll, etc. You can see the balances in your grant funds. There's a couple of grants that have reached 0 and have been exhausted, which is a good thing. And you see your comparison from September of 19 to September of 20 payroll.
So on the payroll, question real quick about the health insurance. Is that something that's going to be like a one-time expense or go up that much every month?
Well, you have to consider that you've added 2 new special ed teachers that weren't here last year. We have, depends on people's choices on what they chose during the election time, whether they're single or family. I think they had a couple of declined insurances that turned around and requested insurance this sign-up period. We have a principal that has full coverage, where you have a principal who didn't have full coverage before, and we have a single or family. So it's just a matter of the
Is it rates change? Or is it more just a matter of
They
Want
did
people
go,
like-
they did go up 7%.
Okay, so we're about 15% increase, so about half of it's from raise and half of it's from just individual employees.
Individual choices. Yep. Is that your question, sir?
Yeah.
Your scholarships, you see their balances. There were no new scholarships issued during the month of September. The employee benefit fund, they have one employee benefit that we're continuing to pay out. I think we have 2.5 years left on that one, and we'll be done. Major maintenance fund, your capital construction fund, we don't have any capital construction projects right now. Your depreciation reserve fund, your lunch fund, your encampment activity fund, the HANA activity fund, the Saratoga activity fund, and your medical lodging deposit account. Any questions regarding any of the other funds this report? Did you have any questions regarding the summary reports for revenue and expenses? I think the percentages were a little bit low compared to last year, which is not in both revenue and expenses, so that's a good thing. Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chair, Bills Committee and Sally met, and she answered all her questions for her satisfaction. And I make the following motion that we approve the following bills. General Fund, $212,695.80. Federal Fund, $199,825.09. Major Maintenance Fund, $32,292.46. Hot Lunch Fund, $44,773.97. Encampment Activity Account, $4,479.75. HEMHS Activity Account, $2,679. Saratoga Schools Activity Account, $34,019.73. There's a grand total of $530,765.80.
Moved and seconded to approve the bills in a grand total of $530,765.80. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, item C is to consider the audit report, accept the audit report that we received earlier for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the audit report that's presented by Ms. Wilkinson today. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to again thank Sally and all of that for having, because audits don't always go near as well as they normally do here, and that's in large part with Sally and all of her support staff. So I make that point.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Okay, motion carries. Review board governance leadership at 12A, review board governance leadership tab 2.1. This has to do with student services. Any questions, comments, issues? Okay, moving on. Okay, the first three policies, minor changes or changes and need to be approved on the first and only reading. The others we'll just go through unless there's an issue. So, policy JEB, enrollment age.
This is just that change. It's basically due to this change in state statute of the entry age for kindergartners. That moved it from September 15th back to August the 1st, with the caveat that if a birthday falls in between those dates, they can ask to be assessed for readiness. And we have worked in pretty much gotten an assessment system now that's going to be used in all of our elementaries. So
did they just approach the principal at that school and then they would set it up or whatever?
yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the changes in policy JEB.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the changes in policy JEB. I just noted here, on the very second to last word, this program shall not discriminate in enrollment on the basis of sex, race, or natural origin. I think that's national origin.
Yes.
So we fix that typo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There should be.
Should be a comma.
Is there one?
I thought it was race related.
Yeah, there needs to be a comma between,
I thought it
yeah,
was race.
No.
Oh, they're separate?
race, religion, and natural.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can comment there.
Okay. That's good. Anybody see anything else like that? We might not want to have a policy. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. JEC goes to about school admissions. It's related to a similar, related to JEB.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the changes to policy JEC. Second.
Moved and seconded to accept policy changes to JEC. All in favor, say aye.
Hey, James, I just, sorry, there is a couple typos in this one too.
Okay.
Or else I highlighted. Okay. You want it. There was just a apostrophe in for, okay, sorry.
Can you guys help me out and tell me who moved and seconded that policy?
I moved it.
Okay. All right, so moved and seconded. All in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, policy IICA, field trips and excursions.
The change in here, it used to be a medical release form, but now on the registration information form, it's sent out that it's common among all school districts has a statement about that on there. So there's not a separate medical release form. It's included on the registration.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the changes to policy IICA.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve changes to policy IICA. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we are into regulations and exhibits. It's just informational.
Yeah, the first one, which is GCAER, principal job description. We just were correcting the,
Let's have some changes on that.
we were just correcting the NCA evaluation, which was the old, years ago, actually, which was the old improvement committee name. We just are now calling it improvement. This leader for the school's improvement accreditation process and service has the motivation for it. So we just updated that to, so now it will be current no matter what system is set up for its we didn't change that.
Okay, GCBB-R.
We need to, is that one good or do we need to vote on that?
No, that's just regulation.
Oh, yeah.
So you just let me know if you don't approve it. If you don't like it.
Yeah.
And then the next one, which is
Actually, you paste it.
GCBB-R, just changes that same, well, there's two changes actually. The school improvement, we changed it to school improvement rather than NCA to catch it up, to correct it. And then we changed Middle school first assistant, we just put parentheses head, that's all just kind of confusing. The head coach for middle school, but we technically call him the middle school first assistant, we just thought we'd clarify that. And then middle school other assistant, we added the word other to kind of conform to what we were doing, basically. We just corrected some of that to try to clarify it. And then the last one, IGDR, is again, just changing the medical release form to the registration form, which is all encompasses the release. So,
Then we got JED-E.
Oh.
One more. I'm saying we get down. That's the form for that.
and that's the registration form.
So the red stuff is just what you changed.
Actually, there was no, this is, I
No change.
apologize if I may. This was the registration form that all of the schools were using. It just was not an actual exhibit. And since we added this verbiage to those couple of other policies,
You're looking for the race one. So now the exhibit is in the column.
Okay, now we just so that we know what that is. More information. Okay. All right. Item C, superintendent evaluation process. This is how we roll the process. Yeah. So there's the clickable PDF link in there. You know, as a board member, I really feel like one of the most important things that we can do is, you know, guide the superintendent, help him do his job, make sure he does his job. And so this is just an opportunity, a formal way to do that. We talked about it at the workshop, and that today, instead of just check or no checks, it's a 1 to 4 ranking system, I think. I clicked on it. Jim's going to have us his evidences by November 1st. The board meeting is on the 16th. I would sure like a week to put that together. So if we can shoot for having that to me by November 9th, you can email it to me. I will put it together, and then if hopefully by, yeah, to me by the 9th, I'd like to get it back to all of you a couple days before the board meeting so that you can see what positive scores were. Yeah, it's just a good opportunity for feedback to Dr. Copeland. And part of it, you know, an important thing is if he thinks he's doing a great job in one area and we're not so sure, he may or may not be doing a great job. He may just not tell us what he's doing in that area. So part of it is managing perceptions and making sure we're on the same page. It's just a communication tool. We will go over that in executive session in the November meeting. Anything I need to add or questions or anything I missed there? Yeah. Okay.
So
Item
one, sorry, 1, 4, and 5, is that right?
Yes. Oh, I missed it back at Bills Committee like normal, but November Bills Committee will be Ms. Barry, Alameda, and Mike Ward. Okay. Item 12D, Rosie's, for agenda meeting.
Oh, I guess we talked a little bit about kind of the same thing. We're getting ready to do the evaluation for the executive director. We also talked about vision and mission feedback, so which I think that's part of this evaluation for us. And I know I didn't talk about this, but last month they had talked about, actually in August, we talked about the DFS being able to, I'm trying to find what DFS placements
have always been able, like, CBRB, but now I think the day schools, they can place into the day schools as well. I think that will be helpful. And then I think, I don't know if I really understand this, but they have some software with many districts to help facilitate support services. I don't know if we have that or if, but anyways, it might be something they're checking through.
I'll check with Rob.
So. And I guess also, you know, they, obviously every time we talk about how serving these high needs children is very important. And I mean, these people are like, I don't understand all of it, but these guys have all been involved in it for a long time. But they have kind of gotten also a coordinated approach with St. Joseph's Cathedral Homes and then CBRB all together. And as always, they always have trouble getting funding. They're trying to educate the most vulnerable children and can't access the state funding. So, which is kind of heartbreaking, really. I mean, the kids that need it the most, that are the most vulnerable, you know, sometimes they can't defend it.
It would seem to make the most sense if it came straight from the state, whether they get or don't get.
Yeah.
Thanks, Georgia. Item E, request, it's a response to a letter from, so the Wyoming State Legislature, the Finance Committee, and on this letter, and I forwarded it to everybody. Just about our response, basically, if we were looking at it, 16% cross-district cut in the next biennium, just what that would look like for our district. Dana printed this out for you. Some of you may have seen that test, the board docs. You know, this was addressed to me as board chair, but obviously, you know, it's for all of us. And they just wanted us to respond, or invited us to respond to them. What those cuts would look like for each of our districts, and to not be a, you know, formal letter, we all say the same thing back, try to be how it really would affect us. So.
They sent out, you know, some other information. I think it might have been in the same email with the letter, but some estimated tax capacity charts, which I attached to make sure everybody had all of that. But obviously, what they're doing, I mean, the state's in a crunch as far as revenues and tax revenues with the coal and oil industry kind of crashing. So the state's in a shortfall. So what they're trying to do is get some input on what the 16%, based on there, if it was done all the only cuts, it would be about a 16% biennium they're estimated, cut in the first biennium they're estimating. And then, you know, I don't know whether they're going to say 16% at the first, you know, 2 years or 8% a year. I mean, there's different ways that they just go about that. And then in the second biennium, they mentioned 20-something%. So kind of a looming bad news as far as the state. And, you know, we've all seen in the papers where the governor's already cut a lot of the departments of the state 10%, and like the prisons and the highway department and Wydog and all of that. We've already been, as an example, I think I might have mentioned this, but Wydog's already kind of contacted the northern schools and basically said they're not approved for overtime, so plowing could look different this year. So, I mean, it is affecting everybody. So K-12 has kind of been untouched up to now because it was already approved, the budget, the 2-year budget was approved, and also there's all kind of court cases. Apparently, they're a little reluctant to just very quickly look into that. It's tied into the recalibration because this is the year that a recalibration is done, and basically that's deciding what the educational model, financial model should look like, what should be included in the basket of goods that we're required to provide as public schools in K-12. So it's all kind of going hand in hand. They're trying to figure out, you know, you keep hearing a lot of the legislators talk about a three-pronged approach. This 16% would be basically representing if it's all done with only cuts, no other, there's the rainy day fund that they could dip into and have dipped into. The problem with that is it would be gone in a few years, just a couple of years, if they use that as the only way to make up the shortfall in K-12. And so then that leaves the other prong, which is to, do we need to raise any more tax revenue? Well, that's always controversial in the raising higher taxes. But they have sent out this information comparing us to states around us, and they highlighted those yellow bars on that. And I'm assuming this is a public document, that if we kind of went to the average of all of these states, then basically down at the bottom, you see how that would affect fiscal years 22, 23, and 24. So by 2023, it would virtually make up the shortfall. Now, I don't think anybody's thinking they're going to raise every one of those taxes as revenue. I mean, that's not very realistic either. I guess they're just trying to put out some information. So they basically then sent this letter out to all chairs saying, what would it look like if you had a 16% cut in your district? So in looking up information and working with Sally and looking at our budget, James and I got this letter together to send back to them. And I think I shared also, I've been the superintendent of Cheyenne, Larry one, and the superintendent of Teton one, or in Jackson, showed us or shared with the superintendents what their boards had written. And I think I added that to the board briefs last week. If not, I will let me know if you didn't have access to those. Brian Farmer has suggested that districts respond, but again, like James said, not in just some form letter where everybody signs the same basic thing. And really, it affects different districts in different ways. We're very different than Laramie or Jackson, so our letter does not really look like much of what they have. We have 7 campuses and 5 communities spread out, and much smaller enrollment than they have. So, bottom line, a 16% cut for us would represent $2,340,637. And so if we're just looking at a cut of that magnitude, which again, I think it's going to be more of a three-pronged approach, but if we're looking at that kind of magnitude of a cut, then there's no way that that's not going to affect personnel positions, because 78% of our budget, according to Sally, is personnel costs. So there's not enough in the rest of that to cut. And a lot of that in the rest of the budget that's non-personnel is really nothing you can cut. I mean, you can say we're going to budget less for utilities, but that's not going to mean utilities isn't going to stay the same and go up. So there's just a lot of set costs. Insurance is another thing. Liability and property insurance generally goes up. It doesn't go down. So unless you're just lucky. So there's something. So really the 16% cut is going to almost have to be more percent in personnel than the 16, because if you just cut the 16, then you're thinking you can cut 16% of everything else too, and that's not reasonable, nor is it possible. So anyway, I won't read the letter. You can read it, but this is just a kind of a draft of how it could affect this district if we had to just do a straight across 16% cut.
And just to add, kind of like the rainy day fund, if you think of the fact that we do have carry over in savings account, our limit's what, 3.8 million or something like that, of 2.3 or what, we only a year and a half and that would be gone. So it's not like we can have the ability to take it all out of our rainy day fund either, because that would be obvious.
You could soften the blow by using some of that, and that's what fund balance is there for in years like this. But you could have just do all of that. You're exactly right. One thing that we're not totally unique, but we're close to being unique, is that we stay pretty close to the model in our funding. And in fact, if you look at that crew report, which I've looked at a lot lately, we're right at 100% of the model in what we pay our teachers. We're about 101% of what we get to principals, for example. That's just 2. We're not under the model in every category, but we're substantially under the state average in every personnel category. So in other words, our para aides are not at the state average of what all the districts pay their paras. our teachers, even though we're at 100% of the model, about the same as what we get, we're substantially under what the state average of all 48 districts pay teachers. Same with, principals, my salary, I think mine is like, I was looking at it, we were like 38 or something like that. So we're not in a bad position to make those points in this letter is why, I'm saying, look, we're trying to get a model, we're underneath the average in almost every category for what the state average is. But yet this is how it could affect us or would affect us. The bottom line is we would have to cut some teaching positions, and it would increase class sizes. We would be combining some grades that we haven't had to combine in our smaller schools, and or in secondary, it would also increase class sizes and or those programs. I mean, and that's probably standard across the state as far as cutting personnel positions. So we're just making those points. And I think the recalibration committee wanted kind of a worst case scenario of cuts to publicize how this is going, could affect schools. There again, like James said, and in our letter, if you notice, two specific requests that we made was to, number one, keep it a block grant so that we can move money around for our unique situation, having various campuses and so on. And then that we would, have a, what the other Oh yeah, if we're going to reduce, and this is, I think, a valid point, that if we're going to reduce the state budget drastically, then the basket of goods or what we're required to, to provide students should be looked at closely and somewhat reduced, because it just doesn't seem logical to require the same amount of everything and then reduce how you're going to pay for it. The state is in a little bit of a situation because the court cases have found that whatever the model, whatever they adopt as a finance model based on the recalibration, they have to fund. They have to fund. So they're either going to have to change the model. If they only fund 80% of the model because they say that's all the money they have after they've adopted the model, then there's going to be a court case the next week, probably filed, that the state is not funding and not following the Constitution of Wyoming. So they're going to be really looking at the recalibration model suggestions, probably a little closer, and then we'll just see where it all goes. I think there's going to be pressure to raise some revenue somewhere. The most I've heard lately is the sales tax, but that could change. So spending some of the rainy day, and seeing where we go. But obviously, we're going to be in an era of tightening budgets and cutting budgets. To freeze salaries, like I know the district has done in past years, that doesn't reduce the budget. That's not a cut. That's just keeping it where it is. So, not a fun, it won't be a fun few years to figure out the budget. As in the past, where we've just kind of done the same and, allowed steps and been able to do the things we want to do every year with our staff. So, we'll see where all this goes. It's early. The legislature hasn't even started. We will know a lot more, obviously, as time goes on. I think that we will use the DAC to get information back and forth as far as having more public input on budgets. Normally, there's not that much interest, but when you're talking about prioritizing, we need to get some input, I think, from who we represent, which is our parents. So anyway, this is just the draft letter. It does need to be back to them by the 28th. They said to basically email it. So we wanted to share this. And you saw at the bottom that if this board is fine with this, then we'll send it to copies to all the members of the calibration, our senators, Senator Claire Hicks, Representative Jerry Paxton. I had Brian Farmer as the executive director of the WSBA because I think he would like a copy of all of these various 48 letters that people would.
So, if you have any comments, feel free to share them now. Otherwise, if you see anything, we need to have it, out a week from today.
So 26, was a couple days ahead of time, they said we can email it, but if you have anything to say, particularly in the, more in the, therefore, this is what we request, or therefore, this is what actions we might want them to take or think about. You know, we can add more to the background, but at the end of the day, it's requests that we make to the committee is what really
The one
the
thing,
meat of it.
and one thing before I forget, and I kind of forgot, we're basically pretty close to the model in almost every area. The one kind of outliers and activities, and I think I brought this up as far as the model, we're right at the state average of what districts are spending at 138% of whatever the model that you get. Again, we have 3 schools, 3 separate teams of most sports. We don't offer near all the sports that are also sanctioned. We don't do things like swimming and golf and tennis and soccer. So we're pretty somewhat limited anyway in what we've been offering, but still, you know, that's those expenses will not go down unless we change things at all.
And this, did you print the short letter, Dana? They're short or long? I thought I had the percentages in the sports, but it's like 137%.
Yeah.
Either one, that's fine. The longer letter was the one I liked. That's
It's right at the top.
right at the top.
The number is-
It's a long letter.
Okay. Right. All right. A week from the day, the comments are there for, and yeah, I need to rehash what he said, but this is worst case, you know. Just there, please. Okay, board member comments. Georgia.
I don't know, Saratoga survived homecoming, right? I saw, I don't know if it was on Facebook or what it was, but, just wanted to put another recognition out there for Buchanan School that for their annual contribution to Make-A-Wish. They do that every year at homecoming time and always seems to be a pretty substantial amount, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then just again reiterate thanks to all the staff, students, parents, everyone in these unprecedented times. I'll leave it open for you parents to have more to talk about.
No, thank you very much. I made the list. Thank you, Hannah, for the snacks. Congratulations to the kids. I got the sportsmanship award. I think sportsmanship is very important. Thank you to the teachers, the admin administration, the bus drivers, custodians, and everyone that has been putting in the extra time. I've been at the school seeing how much we have to clean or how much we have to stand at the door and tell people to put on their masks and make sure they're on the list. And that's a lot of extra work for people that already had a lot of work to do. And I really appreciate it. It was not fun. Thank you, Sally, for a wonderful audit. Thanks for your wonderful letter, Jane.
Mostly Jim.
Sounded awfully smart for you, but.
Come on now.
Oh, and cross country is in Douglas this weekend. If you want to come and watch kids run for 20 minutes, fantastic.
Charlie, take over, please.
Well, thanks, Ellie, for keeping us straight on the books and your staff, all the admin, principals, superintendent, thank you. Really good. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
So, Jim, thank you for taking care of the meetings. You're right.
I'm allowed to add, thank you, Sally. You did a great job at CCSD2 clean audits.
I'll reiterate what everybody else has said, but plus, I was able to attend several of the homecoming events here in Saratoga. and the volleyball, football, I saw the parade. And I was really impressed with the spirit. The kids are having fun. And that's really neat to see. And that's it.
Okay. Sally, tell the other people you work with, thank you on the clean audit. It's very impressive to have no findings at all. We kind of expect that here, you know, we're pretty close to that, but you know, doesn't mean it has to happen. So we appreciate that. Appreciate those of you willing to run again in school board elections coming up here 2 weeks. Georgia, Joe, Paul, Nick Watson. This one. I got to go to a cross country meet, the one here in Saratoga, and I really, really enjoyed it. Beautiful weather. I mean, this last board meeting, I don't know, but loved watching the cross country meet. It was a lot funner than being inside in the volleyball game. So actually, yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. I was shocked. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Lastly, about the teacher burnout, I appreciate those of you who recognize that. You know, I know about staff burnout. It's an issue this time of year. We're busy and too, and you know, we face a little burnout. And you know, the very best thing for that for us is if we get kind of caught up and have a Friday afternoon off to go home. And I was thinking about our modified 4-day school week. Can't imagine being in class 5 days a week. You know, they still have a lot of responsibility and still a lot of activities on Friday, but I do feel like that gives us, although they're longer, the other 4 days, I feel like, at least me personally, it's a better chance to catch up with a little more weekend.
Ditto kind of what everybody else has said. Sally, you and your people are rock stars. Thank you very much. Dana, we give you a lot of grief over yours. You're doing a fabulous job as well. We appreciate you. Jim, James, thank you guys for being in charge on this shortfall of funding. And then also the bang on the usual drum, the bus drivers with the wind and the travel that these people are going to do. Everybody kind of look out for them, help them out. Thank you all the janitors for all the cleaning and extra stuff you do as well.
Awesome. I would just repeat what everyone says. I think this fall has gone relatively seamless considering what we've been dealing with. So I would just thank all the principals and central office. I mean, it's going really well compared to what we thought we might have to deal with. So I think it's been great. Sally, you're always my favorite. So thank you. That audit's absolutely amazing. And, you know, just keep on keeping on.
Thanks. Okay, we have no executive session at this time. Well, Mike, are you still on there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I didn't know if it was my turn or not.
It's now. Best of luck.
Am I still to go or?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. Just kind of want to shout out to the entire CCSD2 nation, everybody that's been hanging in there tight, helping one each other and supporting each other. Obviously, special emphasis. Thank you to Sally for doing such a good job, getting everything we need to have a clean audit. A-team for working on the accreditation. Sounds like kind of a tough process, but anyways. And then also to Stephen Priest. I think he's doing an exceptional job as well over at HEM.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
You bet, Mike.
All right. Our next board meeting will be November 16th at 5 p.m. here at the Central Administration Building. We do have a work session scheduled for 3 o'clock that day, although we don't have a topic at this point. So we don't come up with one right now. The only, and we could include this. I want to reiterate when we come through this letter, Senator Hicks did say that he would be more than happy to come over to one of our meetings sometime to visit with us and have questions for him in person. Obviously, we know, he's pretty
much fiscal conservative, small government type, and, you know, big schools are funded excessively, and that's fine. I agree with Senator Hicks on a lot of things, so, he marches to his own drum, but he did offer, to come over and visit sometime and show up if we had questions, which I thought was nice. Any thoughts for the work session?
Well, whatever the WSBA is going to want to present to the legislature.
Yeah.
Resolutions. So I think we need to review those. I, as a representative, know
Which way we want to vote. That's almost as exciting. It's not 2025. But yes, I knew there was something like that. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. We'll plan for that. And then if there's any other things. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.